This is the Onion News Network, now with more attack satellites than any other network.
Here are some of the stories we're tracking right now. Malia Obama's arranged marriage to a Taliban chief has brought a tentative peace. A new medical study finds a glass of wine each day may help you tolerate your existence. And Portland, Oregon opens the first community-run cooperative McDonald's. The more you fight the Factzone, the tighter it grips you. Welcome to the Factzone. I'm Brooke Alvarez. Right now, we're continuing the Onion News Network's coverage of the death of the American dream. The end came at 12:14 p.m. this afternoon when the last person in the nation to believe that America is a land of boundless opportunity, that is Edward Tuffy, a bar owner in Pennington, Illinois, quietly let go of the dream while watching television and eating cereal on his couch. Onion News Network reporter Andrea Bennett joins us now live from Pennington, where she's standing by with Mr. Tuffy himself. Andrea.
Thanks, Brooke. Mr. Tuffy, can you briefly take us through what happened?
Well, I run this bar, Tuffy's Tavern. Been there 15 years. And I had this plan that I was going to start a couple of locations, like maybe a small chain, you know, add a grill, some palm trees on the wall, make it like a real cuisine atmosphere.
So expand your business and build a better life for you and for your children.
Yeah, like that. So I woke up this morning and I decided I'd try to get myself together and drive over to Middlesbury and check out a couple other spots in case I ever got the money to open up another bar. And then I was flipping through the channels of the TV while I was eating my breakfast, and I started watching that movie, Eraser.
With Arnold Schwarzenegger and Vanessa Williams.
Yeah, and I forgot how good it was. And I started watching that, and then I started watching this show with these doctors, and they were talking about these sex problems. And then I realized that it was noon, and I hadn't even put my pants on, and there was not a chance in hell that I was ever going to start a chain of bars.
So that's when the American dream died.
Yep. And then these reporters started calling me, and before I even got out of the shower, there was all these TV crews here.
So did you feel anything when the American dream died?
Nah, not really. Kind of hungry, I guess.
All right, Mr. Tuffy, what's next for you?
Well, I got to get back to the bar. Tommy doesn't know how to use a register.
All right, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Now, let's talk to a few other Pennington residents about their reaction to the American dream dying. Sir, what did you think when you heard the news?
Well, as long as we keep the bald eagle as our national symbol, I'll be happy. Bald eagle's pretty sweet.
Okay, thank you for that. And what about you, sir? What are your thoughts?
Well, you know what? As long as we can still drink without our shirts on, I didn't really care about Tuffy's American dream.
All right, and ma'am, what about you? Were you shocked to hear that the American dream had died? How did you feel about this?
Well, no, but truth is we're still really proud of Tuffy being a role model for all those lackluster Americans that have given up their dreams. You know, I was going to make him a plaque, but then I was like, why bother?
All right, that's the story here in Pennington. Back to you in the studio, Brooke.
Thanks, Andrea. Well, Mr. Tuffy's abandonment of his bar and grill plan marks the end of a long decline for the American dream. For a quick look back now, let's go over to Tucker Hope at the Recon Wall. Tucker.
Thanks very much, Brooke. As you may remember from your history books, Congress put the current American dream in place in 1894. Prior to that, the American dream had been to have a cellar filled with barley corn and to die in a manner not involving horrific disease or torture. But it wasn't long before the allure of the new dream started to fade, as evidenced in this letter written by a riverboat porter in 1901. I could toil to heft twice as many sacks of sugar each hour, but never would I rise above my lowly stature. Better then to drink and nap. By 1940, more than half the nation had completely given up trying, a phenomenon addressed in popular radio dramas from the time.
Jimmy, I've been working on this here ranch since before you were born.
Wow.
Yep, I'm too lazy to go out and do something that might make me happy.
Ah, jeez.
In the 60s, a combined 100 million people gave up the dream after smoking their first joint and deciding everything was pretty much fine as is. Then, in 1984, millions of Americans gave up the dream en masse when the song 99 Red Balloons made them realize that they would probably all die in a nuclear war anyway. By 2008, only 3 people still believed in the American dream. That is until FedEx employee Ramona Ellis gave up hers after getting pregnant from her manager, Theo. Then last year, 5th grader Paul Wang gave up on the American dream when he told a group of classmates that he wanted to become a great scientist and cure cancer, after which he was called a fag and pushed into a mud puddle. Bringing us to today, when Edward Tuffy gave up as well, finally extinguishing the last vestige of the once great American dream. Brooke.
Thanks, Tucker.
You bet.
We'll, of course, have more updates from Pennington throughout the evening, but right now, let's move on to some of the other big news happening around the country. In a dramatic scene last night, a coalition of the nation's damaged women staged a drunken, tear-soaked march on the Capitol just after 2 a.m. The Onion News Network's chief Washington correspondent Jane Carmichael has more. Jane.
Thank you, Brooke. The damaged women began their protest yesterday afternoon, marching on the National Mall at about 4 p.m., and then marching away furious, saying they were done with Congress once and for all. But then they came back again late last night, insisting that someone in Washington listen to them for once.
Congress, all we're asking for is a little bit of respect, a little bit of your attention. Nobody ever listens. I don't know why tonight would be any different. It's just plays into all of our abandonment issues.
The late-night protests started with tearful apologies, but quickly moved to anger as marchers demanded that Congress pass a bill making it illegal to say you love someone and then up and leave as soon as there's one little problem.
Why are you ignoring us? Stop ignoring us! Why don't you hear me when I talk to you? Wipe the smirk off of your face. No, come back! Come back, because we think that we want you to care about us.
I don't need to pay a therapist to tell me I'm unhappy. I know I'm unhappy.
Following a very frank declaration from the women in which they opened up about the abortion they had when they were 17, Delaware Senator Tom Carper released a statement saying that Congress wasn't going anywhere and that they would do all they could to help the women. However, around 4:30 a.m., the women admitted that they had made up the abortion to get sympathy, then started cutting themselves while repeating, "This is the love you deserve," over and over. That's when Capitol Police were called to break up the protest.
I told them that they all had to vacate the area, and then they started yelling, "You're just like my dad because you're trying to control everything." And then one of them said, "I know you want to hit me, I can see it. Just go ahead and do it. Just hit me in the face." And then she started crying.
This morning, the Damaged Women's Coalition released a statement denying that they had ever marched on Washington, claiming Congress was, quote, always trying to twist things around to make us look crazy. Brooke?
Thanks, Jane. That story brings back a lot of memories. I won my first Pulitzer for my coverage of the historic Spa Day Summit between the damaged women and the nation's concerned sisters back in 1999. Well, the damaged women weren't the only ones hitting the street today. In Florida, about 300 people gathered outside the state capitol to protest a new bill that would allow same-sex couples to adopt. The protesters say it's unfair to raise children in an environment where they will be habitually exposed to people calling their parents terrible names and shaking God hates fag signs in their faces. For some expert analysis now on this always controversial topic, let's turn to the Factzone's first responders. Duncan, does gay adoption endanger children?
Oh, absolutely. Recent studies show that children of gay parents are 10 times as likely to be screamed at by someone they don't even know, and 20 times as likely to be told that their gay parents are the spawn of Satan.
Yes.
Now, how is that not detrimental to the development of a child to see some crazy woman screaming at their gay parents that they're going to be sucking dick in hell forever?
That'll mess with the child's head.
But to be fair, most homes are hellscapes of tension and despair, no matter if they're straight or gay.
Yeah.
Growing up is a roller coaster ride of torment,
Right,
either way.
But Laura Lee, not all the effects are mental. Children of gay parents are 50 times as likely to be hit by an errant rock or to be trampled by a large group of people carrying signs.
And many of these protesters have pledged to rapidly fight this issue to the death, which means that no gay couple can ever really provide a stable home life for their children, no matter how many years pass.
Well, maybe the gay couple should be required to take a class in parenting so they can learn how to avoid these protesters who want to hurt or harm their children.
Having those hate-spewing protesters in their lives is not a choice.
Right, but just as the gays have the rights, the homophobes have the rights to take away the rights of the gays.
Good point.
This is America.
And you don't have to be straight to protest a gay issue. My uncle was the gayest man in Panola County, but he was still the first to come out and condemn homosexuality.
Look, just as long as gay parents agree to be self-loathing and to teach their children that homosexuality is wrong, gay adoption should be fine.
Yeah, that sounds right. Thank you so much, first responders. Why don't you take the rest of the night off?
Thank you.
Let's head back now to Pennington, Illinois, where it's been confirmed that construction on a permanent memorial to the American Dream will begin next week. The monument will be made of metal that, like the American Dream itself, will slowly disintegrate over time until it collapses upon itself. And the base of the sculpture will feature an eternal flame where people can write their hopes and dreams on slips of paper and then set them ablaze. Visitors can meditate on the memorial from the comfort of one of the 50 Barca loungers, which will ring the base of the statue, symbolizing America's 50 states. All right, we have to duck out of the Factzone for a few minutes. Let's take you out on the song that many consider an unofficial anthem to the American Dream. Sitting here waiting for the money to roll in from the Joe Biden Band. Stay in the Factzone.
Just waiting for the money to roll in. Just waiting for the money to roll in. Roll on.
What you see in the Factzone, you can never unsee. I'm Brooke Alvarez, and we're getting reports coming in from across the country that rather than lamenting the passing of the American Dream, many people are celebrating its demise, relieved that they no longer have to pretend to be trying to make a better life for themselves. This is especially true in Pennington, Illinois, where the Dream died. Dozens have gathered at Tuffy's Tavern in sight of the historic Dream's passing for a celebratory drink.
I'm so glad it died. Now I don't have to feel bad about being anything more than the town floozy.
Oh yeah, as soon as it died, I completely stopped feeling guilty about never having done an honest day's work in my life, unless you count huffing paint as work.
I could watch those people drinking all night, but unfortunately we need to head back to Tucker Hope for a look at some of the other big stories going on right now. Tucker?
Thanks very much, Brooke. Personally, I have no use for the American Dream. If I stay exactly where I am for the rest of my life, I will be a very happy man. All right, first let's start off in Las Cruces, New Mexico, where the cash-strapped NASA program has launched a new mission to explore New Mexico. A robotic probe set out on its course for Albuquerque at 10:14 this morning and began to collect soil samples through the use of its mechanical arm. NASA Administrator Michael Polasic said the Interstate 25 Odyssey project will provide vital information about the dirt in New Mexico and is much cheaper than actually going to space. The probe has already sent back some incredible footage of the side of the highway. Very cool. Now let's take a look at Pittsboro, Indiana, where champion NASCAR driver Jeff Gordon has donated $2 million to a new anti-illiteracy charity aimed at teaching Jeff Gordon to read. Gordon kicked off the project, which aims to stamp out Gordon's illiteracy in his lifetime, with a star-studded event where celebrities like Susan Sarandon and Kelsey Grammer read Mr. Gordon some of their favorite books while he sat on a so-called learning rug. At the event, Gordon announced, "Teaching me to read is the most important investment Americans can make in my future." Now, over to Washington, D.C., where Vice President Joe Biden has made an announcement that he will be releasing his Secret Service detail and replacing them with a squad of sexy female bodyguards. The team includes sharpshooter and demolitions expert Vivica Clay, Azura Moon, a Malaysian martial arts expert, and champion lightweight boxer Hera Rodriguez. Though the Vice President's bodyguard roster is currently full, Biden said he is always on the lookout for new talent. Anyone wishing to be considered for the team can upload a resume of fighting skills and a photo of themselves in a bikini to the White House website. Brooke.
Thank you, Tucker. Now let's turn our attention back to the death of the American Dream. The international response to the event has been swift, with many world leaders offering their support. British Prime Minister David Cameron released a statement today officially inviting America to join England's slow descent into irrelevance. Leaders from the islands of Micronesia released a statement saying, quote, "We anticipate the cast-off remnants of the American Dream to arrive on our shores in the coming months, along with the other garbage your country dumps into the ocean." And Norway has offered America temporary use of the Norwegian Dream, which essentially involves dried fish and a more collective view of society. We here in America truly appreciate these sentiments. Unfortunately, a handful of other nations have not been so kind, making snide remarks about the death of the Dream and even implying that the United States is past its prime. To those nations, I have one thing to say. We may have lost the American Dream, but we are still the country that invented the zipper. Yes, other nations may have pulled ahead in quality of life or national spirit, but no one will ever create a more elegant method for keeping pants shut than a row of tiny metal teeth. ever. And yes, the Asian continent now manufactures 90% of the world's zippers, but we brought it into being. We didn't do it for fame. We did it to help people keep their pants up. Would African doctors be able to cure diseases without the zippered bag that holds their stethoscopes? Would Indian workers be able to program the world's computers if they couldn't close their laptop cases? Would man have made it to the top of Mount Everest if they had to close their tents with a series of buckles? No. So to those nations who called America a, quote, collapsing bloated giant and a failed imperialist experiment, I just say, sorry, I can't hear you over the sound of the world zipping up. All right, we'll return with more in a few minutes. As we go to break, let's take a look now at another reaction to the death of the American dream, this one from an American in Los Angeles, California.
The American dream for me, was to go through life without losing a leg, so really it ended for me, about 6 months ago.
Stop, wait there. Okay, coming to the Fact Zone. I'm Brooke Alvarez. Is NPR guilty of desensationalizing the news? Find out later tonight on Media Monitor with Kyle Ladofsky. But right now, we're getting word that Congress has already begun work on selecting a new American dream. Let's go now to a live feed from Washington, where the new dream is being discussed.
For you, a proposal for a new American dream, PD number 432A, the so-called sex with celebrity dream. Under this American dream, every U.S. citizen would strive toward one day having sex with a B-list celebrity.
Just a bit of clarification. This dream seems similar to PD 309, in which the American dream would be to attain 3 or more groupies, and that it is both a fame and sex-based dream.
Well, the text of the dreams are very different.
Before we move on, I'd like to make a proposal to return to the discussion of PD 428, the American dream to create our own novelty tourist attraction. Now, I believe a dream in which every American strives to have the world's largest chair, or a wax museum, or a huge sculpture of a dinosaur made from welded together farm tools would both be inspiring, and it would drive up international trade.
Motion denied.
I've always dreamed of riding in a submarine.
Oh, Congressman, I don't think that dream is shared by all Americans.
I couldn't disagree with you more, Mr. Chairman.
Do we really need a dream right now? Couldn't we just coast for a while?
All right, we'll have much more on that later. But right now, let's turn to the dire situation in Hollywood, where a devastating freak accident at Sony Pictures Studio has resulted in 34 Katherine Heigl movies being released at once. Onion News Network reporter Brian Scott has more. Brian.
Thanks, Brooke. A frantic scene in Hollywood today as studio officials scramble to contain a massive stream of Katherine Heigl films pouring into theaters. At present, 19 romantic comedies, 14 screwball romps, and 1 attempt at art house indie credibility featuring the 32-year-old actress have hit unsuspecting theaters across the country. Sony Pictures reps claim that the disaster was caused by a night shift janitor who forgot to secure the Heigl vault after cleaning it. They released a statement earlier today saying, quote, "We understand that exposure to this amount of Katherine Heigl is dangerous for anybody, even someone who doesn't hate her. We promise to do everything we can do to get the level of Heigl films back down to a much more manageable 3 or 4 per year." Industry experts are warning that one Katherine Heigl film in particular, Venus and Mars, co-starring Bradley Cooper, may be especially hazardous. Triage centers have been set up in parking lots of movie theaters nationwide, like the one behind me.
We're doing the best that we can out here. But the movies are just coming out too fast. Fool Me Once with her and Justin Long. Across the Pond where she falls in love with Hugh Grant. This Nervous Nelly movie where she wears glasses. They're all wreaking total havoc.
Emergency rooms have already reported a 700% increase in self-blindings, and mental health wards are seeing huge numbers of new patients suffering from severe post-Heigl stress disorder. But movie critics who've had to view every one of these films have been among the hardest hit. Roger Ebert even posted an erratic plea for help this afternoon on his blog at the Chicago Sun-Times. To help these victims and others recover from the nearly 68 hours of Katherine Heigl's face and voice, FEMA has begun distributing emergency DVDs of the existential Coen Brothers film, No Country for Old Men. FEMA is also implementing an emergency plan they developed back in 1993 after Columbia Records simultaneously released 14 Toad the Wet Sprocket albums. Brooke, back to you.
Thanks, Brian. Ms. Heigl made a statement to reporters this afternoon saying, "This is absolutely tragic. Believe me, no one recognizes how terrible and grating I am more than me. I have to live with it all day, every day." I've got to say, Katherine Heigl was nothing but nice to me at the Women Awards. Before we go to break now, let's take a quick look at the Factzone's viewer tracking module to see just how our viewers around the nation are responding to the news that the American dream has died. Our real-time satellite images show that 58% of our viewers are going about their days as usual, like Chris Irvine here in Macon, Georgia. You see him there walking his dog Arthur, as he does every day at this time, suggesting that the news has not had that much of an effect on him. However, some of our eyeball cams are showing a different story. Here's a feed from the camera we implanted in the cornea of Teresa Adler of Glendale, California, when she thought she was getting laser eye surgery. At this very moment, she's checking her bank account, perhaps to reassure herself during these very unsure times. Very interesting. All right, we have to take a short break right now, but for your safety, don't leave the Fact Zone.
Since time immemorial, fire has lived side by side with man. We invite it into our homes. We share our most intimate moments with it. But can fire be trusted? Tomorrow night, on the exclusive Onion News Network special report, Andrea Bennett investigates fire, man's ultimate frenemy.
You are once again ensconced in the Fact Zone. I'm Brooke Alvarez. The UN has just announced that it will be sending additional violence-keeping troops into Somalia to ensure that the violence continues there. Much more on that later here on the Onion News Network, but right now, we have an urgent breaking news blast coming in. President Obama has just signed an official order decreeing that the new American dream will be to own a tricked-out motorcycle. Again, this is official, folks. The dream of every American citizen, the driving force behind all that we live for as a nation, will be the pursuit of owning a very cool-looking motorcycle. Let's go live now to Washington, where Deputy Press Secretary Todd Grant is making a formal declaration of the new American dream.
Shortly. In the meantime, the president released this statement. The promise of America is that all citizens, regardless of race, class, or creed, might one day be able to twist a wick on a sweet V-twin hardtail. Raging dual exhaust systems, double block headers, chrome forks, these are the kick-ass motorcycle components that we will one day pass to our children and to our children's children. To those who may doubt whether America remains the greatest nation in the world, come see us atop our screaming hogs, blazing across the scorching pavement like badass road Vikings hungry for a fight. Then you look.
I must say, I had hoped that the new American dream would be trouncing those weaker and poorer than you with venomous insults until their minds dissolve into insanity, but this dream is also good. I'm being informed that in an effort to create quality programming that reflects the nation's new priorities, the Onion News Network has canceled the Crest-Beckler stance. So now I'll turn you over to our newest program, Motorcycle, Motorcycle, Motorcycle. From all of us here at the Fact Zone, good night, and may you reach your perfect bike.